welcome to another episode of Rags to Riches, The Refined Mind. And today I have a very special guest, and we're going to be having, a very interesting segment on this series. So, Isha, do you want to introduce yourself? I'll let you do the introduction.
Yeah, I'm actually normally terrible at doing these because I don't actually know what to say. But yeah, my name is Isha. From my entertainment background, I was always known as Isha Nemesis. I don't know why I chose that name, to be honest with you. It was a long story behind it. We'll come back to that. But known as Isha Nemesis. Isha Chirumuta family name. And yeah, my kind of story was entertainment to Christ.
Wow. Okay. I'm tempted to dive in because I'm like, wow, I've heard a little bit about your background, your testimony, your story. But before we do that, I do like to do a quick fire question with my guest. So quick fire, you know what? It means dun dun dun, like no thinking.
I can't even think. Okay.
Straight into it. Right, okay. So coffee or tea?
I don't drink either.
Wow. Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
One thing you can't live without?
Pizza.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Sweet or savoury?
Savoury. I'm really bad at not thinking.
Literally.
The one thing I'm not supposed to do.
Yeah, the one thing you're not supposed to do. And I always like to ask this question. What was the most pivotal moment of your life?
Oh, that is tough to answer. Is that quick fire as well? Or is
No.
Okay, cool.
He's like...
I was sweating already.
No.
Nah, do you know what? It's hard to say because there were so many moments that I feel like were pivotal for me. Like going on Britain's Got Talent was pivotal.
Yeah.
That was like a massive part of the journey for me. What happened in the semi-final of the show as well was pivotal.
Yeah.
That was a big moment for us.
Yeah.
And then the final after that, kind of moving it forward a little bit to one video that I watched.
Okay.
That kind of took me down, the whole journey ended up going down, which led me away from God.
Okay.
That part was extremely pivotal because it was just one hour video that I watched that completely led me down a garden path of madness towards literal madness. And then I wouldn't say one very pivotal moment because there was a couple times where Christ saved me.
Yeah.
When I didn't ask for it, which was the craziest part of it because I didn't really know I needed to be saved.
Yeah.
But yeah, things got crazy. And then there was a couple moments where he kind of intervened and stepped in.
Yeah.
And those for me were pivotal moments as well where I kind of knew, I was like, okay, this is the guy.
Yeah,
But
this is the real deal.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, I need to figure out what the next step is for me. Where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And I had to leave behind all my beliefs because I've always had this concept of like, I'm not too proud to say I've got something wrong. Okay. So even though my belief was so entrenched, like so strong in what I was doing before, I always entertained the idea that I might not necessarily be on the right path because that's always going to help me stay on the truth.
Yeah.
And because I had that mindset, it made it easier to then soul search and say, right, what is it I actually need? Because I knew I needed something. I knew there was something there.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what that was. So I then researched everything and then came to the conclusion that Christ is the way forward.
Yeah.
And that led me down where
This
I'm
where
at
you are
now.
today.
And even that part was staggered.
Yeah.
It took a lot. It took a lot.
I was gonna say, I think it sounds like you've been on a journey, like to get to where you are today. Because have you always believed?
No.
No, because you were atheist.
Yeah, I was. At one point, it's hard to say if I was atheist or not because this was when I was like a child.
Okay.
I'd probably say I was atheist because I didn't really have any entrenched belief in God.
Yeah.
So I was kind of just like, whatever. I found it stupid. But it was more because I hated it because when we were going to the Church of England, I didn't really enjoy the services.
You just kind of do your routine.
Yeah,
And then
do you know what I mean? And it was just, for me, it was boring.
Yeah.
Like, it was so boring. There was no energy behind the sermons. There was nothing that kind of brought me in.
Yeah.
It was just boring. And I was just like, if this is religion, this ain't it. This ain't it. So, yeah.
No, I could completely relate because I come from a Catholic background, and I remember I used to literally pretend like that I'm ill or like like I'm sleeping. Like when my parents would come to it's time to go to church, and I'll literally like do as much as I could not to go because you go there, pray to Mary, then they do their own thing, and then we'll go home, and it's like your life isn't changed or it's not transformed. You're not encountering anything.
Yeah.
So I completely relate when it comes to that.
Yeah, exactly. And equally as well, like I've spoken to a few Catholic people, especially recently as well, Because I mentioned in the first interview that I did, and they were kind of like, why don't you want to go to Catholicism specifically? And kind of the way I looked at it was, for one, it was Christ directly that saved me, which led me towards learning more about Christ directly.
Yeah.
And then when I did my research, I looked into what are the cornerstones of Catholicism, because it seems to be fundamentally different to what the Bible specifically teaches.
Yeah.
So there are differences. So I looked into that, and we had like a good conversation about it. But I was just like, I didn't, like you were saying, like the praying to Mary.
Yeah.
I couldn't wrap my head around why prayer to Mary would make sense.
Yeah.
Because the Bible kind of teaches that prayers go to Jesus, and Jesus is the gatekeeper. He's the way, the truth, the life.
So where is this other middle person coming in?
Yeah, why is there like gatekeepers in the middle? Like Jesus is that gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So then why are we praying here? Why are certain people forgiven sins when Jesus says, I and the Father alone can forgive sin?
Yeah.
So then why is this guy?
Yeah.
You see, so then there were little things that just didn't really make sense to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
And it's not biblical. And then I saw something where the Pope even mentioned himself that there's certain things that are in their teachings that aren't actually biblical. Mm-hmm. And that therefore means if it's not biblical, it cannot be taken as divine from God.
Yeah.
And therefore, as a Christian, I'd have to reject it.
Yeah.
Because you could then just add anything, but you're not supposed to add anything to scripture.
Yeah.
So that's why I was a bit like, I'm
it's not for me.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of said, I don't believe what I'm involved in is a religion as such.
Yeah.
I don't view Christianity as a religion, it's following Christ.
Yeah, and I think as well, which we're going to touch on a little bit more, is you've had an encounter directly. And I think you've done something that maybe a lot of people are perhaps a bit scared to do. Like, you've asked questions, you've researched, like you've actually, you've kind of faced it head on, you know, and not just taken on information and allowed that to inform your decision. Like, you've gone to God directly and said, I need this answer and I need this to make sense to me and to your spirit. So with that encounter, you're able to be as strong as you are, especially coming from the background that you've come from, to have the strong faith that you have. It's quite phenomenal.
Yeah. When you see something like that, you have to have faith, and strong faith, because there's no coming back from that. Do you know what I mean? Some people I've seen who've had experiences like that go into this false state of reality where they're just like, oh, maybe it really was a dream. Like, maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just something that I ate that made me have these visions. You know what I mean? Because they can't wrap their head around the idea that what they believed was wrong. Yeah. And because they're so entrenched in their belief, they can't allow themselves to be vulnerable in the sense that they may not be on the right path. Yeah. So they'll find anything in their current world to justify them staying on the path they're already on. Mm-hmm. Whereas for me, it was kind of like, I know that what I saw was real. Yeah. I know that the path I was on was fake. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, I need to know and understand the direction I'm going and what this is telling me to do next. Yeah. And that was where kind of my informed decision came in. Yeah. And it was kind of ironic that the one thing that got me into the New Age movement was also the same thing that got me out of it as well. Yeah. Which is kind of divinely ironic that he used the same thing to put me there and the same thing to bring me out.
To bring you out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you've experienced a lot of things. So I want us to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, tell me a little bit about your childhood. Like, what was your childhood like?
Yeah, like childhood for me was interesting. So you mean like spiritually or just in general?
Just like in general, did you have like your mum and your dad and
yeah. So yes, I had my mum and my dad there.
Yeah.
My mum was working a lot, so she was like going night duty, come home, sleep for an hour, go and do a day shift, come home, eat, night duty. So she was really working really hard. Yeah. And my dad was doing some law work at the time, and then he was kind of looking after us full time. Yeah. So the dynamic really at home was more between me and my dad, more than anything. And kind of growing up, again, like my mum was the churchgoer. She was the I'll say religious person. She has actually grew up in the Catholic Church in Africa, and then kind of moving forward, she kind of just became full of Christ, and that was it. Yeah. And she was like a prayer warrior. And because she was so strong in her faith, and her side of the family, all of them are the same. Yeah. So she pushed real hard for the children and everyone to kind of go to church and do everything. But for me, I reacted the opposite. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I remember Sunday school, I think, sealed the coffin for me, I think. That was the nail that kind of, killed it for me, because like, I clocked onto something and I was like, I know I'm not supposed to know this, but I do, and it's ruined it. So like what they'll do, right, is at the time, I don't know if I'm showing my age or something, but there was something called Pogs.
Okay.
Like before Pokemon or anything, there was Pogs, right? These little like circular disc playing card things that you can trade with your mates. And I don't know how we used to fight with them, but we did. And I was like, I really want some Pogs. Like, I really want some. And I was in Sunday school. They gave us a little questionnaire.
Yeah.
And it's like, what would you like most in the world? And I put down Pogs. Now, looking back now, I know what they did. They went to my parents and said that's what he's asking
Yeah.
for. Sort it out, innit? Just, you know what I mean? So in the following week, they were handing out some stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, my parents, the following week actually, got me some Pogs, and they're like, yeah, here you go. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, how did you know?
Yeah, and for about a week, I was just like, this is amazing. And then I was like, something in my head just went, hold on a minute, I wrote that down, didn't I? A week ago, and then now they're buying me Pogs. So I think I was probably about 8 or 9 years old at the time, but I wasn't stupid.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I put 2 and 2 together, I made 8, divided it, and I was like, oh, hold on a minute, I got 4. So they went some long way around to basically get it for me and then make it seem like it was divine.
Yeah.
And I clocked pretty quickly, and I was just like,
nah,
I see you. And because I saw that, it gave me even less faith in what I was doing. So that, in a sense, kind of pushed me away, ironically.
Sounds interesting because the smallest of things can have the greatest of impact.
Yeah, and as a child, because like as a child, you're seeking, and you get a lot of information from your parents and other people that are raising you. And when they do something like that, where it feels like, and I don't blame them or anything like that, I'll do the same thing. But it's like, when you notice stuff like that, it makes you question and think, if they're doing that and they're not even telling me, then
what other
question other things?
Yeah,
and because I was already disinterested in religion, it pushed me away even more, because I was like,
is it even real? Exactly.
Yeah, so I then kind of just, at that point, I was kind of like stepped away completely. Then I was like, I don't even want to go to church, and I stopped going to church for a very, very long time. I've actually only started going to church again in the last 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. I stopped completely. And even in part of my journey going back to Christ, I still didn't go to church. Yeah. Because I was so wary about what goes on in churches.
Those experiences.
Yeah, I'll circle back to that one. There was a reason why I was like, I don't want to go to church, because I didn't trust half of the churches. So I was like, nah, I don't want to do it. But yeah, so kind of, as a child, it just led me away. So that void.
Yeah, I completely understand that, especially if it's, because you equate faith to church, and then when you can see that actually they've kind of done something to make it seem like this appeared.
Exactly.
Then where is the truth in that? So when it comes to, because I want to touch on a little bit of some of the experiences that you've had, what would you say was your most kind of scariest or like daunting experience?
You mean spiritually?
Spiritually, yeah. And at what age, like, did that sort of happen?
It's hard to say what the scariest one was, because there was a few that were like truly terrifying. Yeah. Like, and it's strange, you know, because like I'll say one of the worst ones that I had. Just trying to think what happened when, and I guess it depends on what you mean by fear. So I'll give you an example. So there was one where I was pretty terrified, where I was into meditations, I was doing, practicing astral projection, stuff like that. Yeah. I was really deep into all of that kind of stuff. I was already naturally open to it from childhood anyway. I used to do it without even realizing that I was doing it. Okay. But I remember I joined this community of people where you used to do certain types of meditation that allow you on will to separate your spirit from your body, and you can travel. So I was kind of into stuff like that. And I remember one time I was in bed, I was kind of doing some meditations, and there's like a process that you feel that you go through before your spirit comes out. And it's like, it's darkness, and you might see like some bright lights, and then the room feels like it's shaking, and then it'll stop. And then,
this is real, like you're feeling this, like.
Oh yeah, you feel that, like you can feel it, and then you're out, and you'll know you're out because you could look in your room at something really, like what they used to say is to test that what you're doing is true or real. Okay. Go to something and then read something, and then when you wake up, go and check it. Something that you probably wouldn't even realize. So you can actually go into a cupboard and get a book and then read part of the barcode at the bottom. And then when you wake up, go to that book, you'll see it. So
it's like you test. Yeah, so it's like, yeah.
That's testers, so that you know that what you're doing is actually some real stuff. So I was like, okay. And there was one time I was kind of going through the process of meditation. Now, at this point, I think I'd already questioned my first time what I was doing was wrong. So I'd already raised the question. And I knew that demons existed at this point. Before that, I didn't even know they were a thing.
Yeah.
What we used to believe in is shadow people.
Yeah.
So what had happened is, I remember I was doing my meditation and I opened my eyes, and my room, all around me, there was like this flower of life pattern in like blazing red, like a cage around my room.
Okay.
And I was like, damn, like, to give you the best kind of example of what I saw. I don't know if you've ever seen this. There's a horror film called Cabin in the Woods. And I think Chris Hemsworth, if that's his name, the guy that played Thor, he was in that film. And there was a bit where he's riding his motorcycle trying to do a jump from one side to the other, and he hits this invisible barrier, then it lights up, and then that's when they realize they're inside a cage. That is almost identical to what I saw.
Okay.
But it was like around my room, and it was like blazing, like the lines were blazing red, almost like a cage. And I was like, this is not happened before, this is weird.
Yeah.
And then I remember I had a dream, and I was standing in a field, and I remember it was like a massive hay field. Similar to like Gladiator at the end where he's walking back to his family and he's in that hay field. It would look like that. Yeah. Really tall stacks of hay, open field, nothing kind of in the way, no trees, anything. And I looked up and the sky went black, and this gigantic demonic head started coming down, like an old man with black eyes, mouth wide open, and in my head I knew it was gonna eat me.
Come to devour you.
Yeah, exactly. And then I didn't even do a prayer. Because it was early days for me.
Like when you woke up?
No,
or in the dream?
Yeah, because you're told if you have an attack like this to pray. And ask for Jesus to save you. And I didn't even do any of that because I didn't know to. So I remember freaking out. I was like, that's it, I'm done. I am done, I'm not coming back. Finito. And then I saw this from the third person. So while this was happening, I'm say like way over here. I'm looking, I can see the head coming down, and I see me standing over here. So I'm seeing it happen from a third person perspective. And then all of a sudden, as it was probably about 10 meters away from me, it disappeared. And then I remember looking up into the sky, and I saw like the clouds part, and in the distance I saw 3 beings, like they were really far away, like almost like bright lights in the distance. But I could make out sitting almost like on a cloud was 3 figures. And they were looking down at me. And at the time, I didn't really know what I was looking at. I just thought, I don't know if they've just saved me. I don't know if, you know what I mean? Now looking back, I'm like, damn, that was Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But at the time, I was like, thank you. Whatever you've done,
so
I'm
were
good.
all these experiences like new to you then, like seeing these dreams and... So, so with the meditation, you said this was something that you was sort of doing regularly. This is a way to astral project.
Yeah, exactly.
What made you start astral projecting, or was it things that you watched and then you kind of started to learn to do these things? Or?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Before I forget as well, actually, that wasn't even the scariest part of what that dream was. I almost forgot. After I woke up from that dream, I remember looking to my right-hand side, and there was this tall, dark, demonic figure standing next to my bed. It was about 9 feet tall. It looked African, with jet black eyes, short hair, and it was standing there looking down at me, and it was swearing and threatening me, saying, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to hurt you. And it was walking backwards as it was saying it, and then it kind of just started slowly disappearing. And then I was like blinking. I was like, I'm not asleep. I just saw that. And I just sat up, and I was like, obviously, they were trying to attack me, and it didn't work out. I was saved, and they got annoyed that what it wanted to do didn't work, and then it threatened me like there's no tomorrow. And I didn't even know demons talks like that. It was like swearing and everything. I was like, this is crazy. And when you see these things standing next to you, it's like the fear you get inside you is so strong, it paralyzes you. Like you can't even move. You're that scared. It's a weird feeling to describe. But it's like the aura of it is so powerful, it actually stops you from moving, and they try and stop you from talking. Because if it stops you from talking, you can't pray to the Lord to save you. So it's mad. But sorry, I just had to add that because that was like the worst part of that situation. But going back to your question about what kind of got me open to astral projection was really, I was already open to it from childhood. I was doing it without knowing I was doing it.
But like how? Like, because you was born, and obviously you're born innocent.
Well.
We're born into sin, but we're born... Like we learn to speak, we learn to walk. So in terms of that kind of innocence, you're not born and you're like, unless they are people that are born, they're not humans.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So, but I don't believe that was you.
Nah. I mean, I hope not.
Because I know I've heard stories of women, they'll go to the sea and then they will, you know, ask for to be pregnant, and if the child is not human.
Yeah.
But so you don't think like, okay, I'm gonna astral project like when you're little. So
Yeah.
how did that door open?
So there's two ways that I'm aware of that you can open that door. One of them is generational. So somewhere in your family line, probably in the last 10 generations, someone has made a deal or done something that's opened the door, because we know that curses are generational.
Yeah.
So these demonic entities that have attacked someone in my family line have attached itself to your family, and then it will attack generation after generation.
Yeah.
So because of that, you then automatically become open to the spirit world without having the choice of doing it.
Yeah.
And that makes you more susceptible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes you more susceptible to the devil's attacks, which is why, like, I found it very interesting that I went down the route that I did with entertainment and all of that stuff, because that industry is disgustingly satanic. So it was just basically it's like a picking ground for lost souls, where they can just pick you up, repackage you as what they want, put you back out there, and then make you deceive other people into doing the same thing.
Yeah.
That's all entertainment's there for. That's the whole purpose of the music industry and Hollywood.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found it very interesting that I went down that direction. Even like before I did the dancing side of it, I actually wanted to be a rapper, and I was making music, I was producing, I was creating music.
Yeah.
I was even working with this producer. He was producing for K-Coke when he was big at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do something with this.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I remember when I was choosing the name that I wanted to use to rap, and in my head just popped Red Dragon, and that's what I went with. I was like, yep, that's my name. Obviously now, you know the name, what it stands for, and I'm just like, and for a long time, that's the name I was known by lots of people. So it's crazy, but like, yeah, so generational is one way in which that door's opened. Another way is if you open it yourself, and there's various routes you can take to do it. One of them is things like DMT, ayahuasca that people do. They go out into the woods, they'll take these compounds, and then it will give them a spiritual encounter. But what they perceive it to be is a beautiful encounter with either your ancestors or higher beings, which can be called ascended masters or spirit guides or spirit animals, as a lot of New Agers will call it. And these beings will give you knowledge.
Nature.
Yeah, and they'll give you knowledge, they'll give you inspiration for things. You could even see like some choreography come into your head and you're like, oh, this is amazing. I've got this amazing idea. Or a song can be written. Like some artists talk about it, where I think don't know if it was John Lennon that talked about it, about ideas for songs that would come in dreams and things like that. So it's that's how they do that. Another way of opening that door is the meditations, or things like yoga will help you with that. It's aligning the chakras.
Yoga's a big thing, isn't it? Like a lot of people don't see yoga as a spiritual, demonic thing.
Which is crazy, but they don't understand it. And because it looks so innocent, and we're in this fitness age now, everybody wants to get fit and go to the gym. It just looks like something that's just peaceful, and I'm just stretching, like, what could be wrong with that? But they don't know how easy it is to align yourself with dark energy. They have no idea. There's very little that you need to do to align with the devil, but there's a lot that you've got to do to align yourself with God. Which is why the path is narrow and very few shall find it. Because it's not easy. But the devil has done things specifically to make it all encompassing. So it's very easy for somebody to follow him. He'll open all the roads. And it's like the poses represent different demonic entities. And by performing them, you're aligning yourself spiritually with that entity. And what it does, it creates a portal for them to access you. And then through that energy connection, they can then start throwing thoughts into your head. They can make you feel depressed. They can attack your health. There's many ways they'll come at you. They'll go after your finances, anything. So you don't want to open those portals. And I was already kind of open, but I opened a lot more doors just by practicing all these things. And I was just aligning myself, all the crystals, the tarot cards, Ouija boards, they're all portals for these things to access you. And once you've opened the door, it is so hard to close. Really, really hard to close. So yeah, it's a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's crazy. Like you were saying, like even like the poses and like when it comes to like yoga and stuff, it's like they're all, and some of them resemble like some Hindu gods and things like that, and you don't realize like you're opening doors. I really want to touch on the industry. Because I know some people sell their souls, and I know that's something that you spoke about, the blood covenant and things.
They have different types of covenants that they'll make with people. I was offered like the blood covenant route.
Okay.
And
When you say...
I know, it made it sound like, you go down Tesco. I'll pick up the blood covenant for $2.99.
How do you? We're gonna get to that because we're gonna end the episode in a minute. We've got about 5 minutes, so I want us to hold that thought. But how do you find people react like when you share this? Like, do you feel like people like, oh yeah, like whatever is bluffing? Because you go in like deep, and sometimes because you like they offered me this, and like then it's like, are they here? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know?
I found it very interesting, you know, because like I thought the reaction I was going to get was going to be, you're just crazy. But because a lot of people that know me, they know that I'm not the type of person to make things up like that.
Yeah.
And although their first reaction is, what the heck? They then think, but it's him. Like, he wouldn't just say that and make it up for no reason. Like, I've got nothing to gain from making this up.
Yeah, of course.
So a lot of people would then realize that actually there might be something in this.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but it's like, even the way it happened was crazy, because at this point I was already out. I was like, I'm no longer doing the New Age stuff. I was already like, I'm a Christian at this point. Yeah. When they made this offer, and these demons work in ranks.
Who's they?
So comes from Lucifer, but he's got his own like army of demons that work below him that will then be the ones contacting you.
Is this in human form?
No, this was spiritually. So they can contact you in human form, but this was spiritually. And for me, they used to attack me when I was ill most of the time, because
sickness.
I'm weaker, so it's easier to get me to do something. So I just got back from hospital. I had a chest infection and tonsillitis, so I was out on meds. So I remember lying on my bed, and remember what I told you about the process of you have to go through to meditate and get your body out. Yeah. It's a whole thing. I remember lying back on my bed, and immediately I felt like boom, I was falling. Like free fall, and I was like, whoa, what the heck just happened here? And then immediately I was just like, okay, whatever just did that is a very high ranking demon, because I knew the normal demons I was seeing didn't have the power to do that. This thing just pulled me straight out, and I was like, damn.
Was you like falling through your bed?
Yeah, but in darkness. I can't see anything. It's just like you're falling and you don't know where you're going.
So your body's lying down and you can feel like your spirit is like,
it's like free fall, like someone's dropped you off of a drop tower, an old tower's like free fall. It was crazy. And then the next thing I saw was my new group called K&E. We was on stage getting a standing ovation from all 4 judges on Britain's Got Talent. And I was like, oh, okay. And I knew the judging panel as well. I don't think it was even released at this point, who was going to be judging. And then the next thing it showed me was my group winning the show. Standing ovation again. And then it showed my group walking through a school, and all the like kids were standing up and clapping. And then I was in the park with my partner and my son, and we had a dog for some reason. I don't have a dog. They know I'm a dog person, like you said earlier. And I remember it was a beautiful area. It was absolutely amazing. And I then walked home, because I knew I had loads of money at this point. And I went home, opened the door, and I looked down the hallway, and I see my body lying in bed, sleeping. That's when I realized I'm separate. Okay. And then everything went pitch black, like this darkness. I can't even describe it. Yeah. And then this contract appeared, and then in my voice, it's like my spirit said, what do I need to do to get all of this? And then this contract appeared with like a scroll with gold writing, gold trim. And then it said, sign this and everything you saw is yours. And then as soon as I realized that it was a deal from the devil, I didn't need to say no. I just flung straight back on my body, opened my eyes, and this like 3-foot demonic black entity standing next to me. And I had that immense feeling of fear again, and I was paralyzed. And then it started to disappear, and then it went away. And then I sat up, and then my partner walked in the room to check on me. And I was just like, that's crazy. Wow. And then 3 weeks later, I get the call from my TV saying, we want you guys on the show.
So it's like it's replaying.
The same panel that I saw. We got the standing ovation that I saw as well, everything the same. But because we didn't take the deal, we got knocked out in the semi-final. Wow. It's crazy.
Hold that thought, because we're gonna get deeper into it. But yeah, guys, that is the end of this episode. We're gonna get more into it, and it is chilly here more than it's been today. So stay tuned for the next episode. Bye, guys.